Hello spooky lovers. So picture this. You're on a romantic date with a cute guy. Late night, chilly air, and you're out in the woods. It's your first date. And he doesn't give potential vampire vibe, right? Let me take you back to the 1970s, Utah. A time before GPS and phone trackers. It starts out kind of sweet, and ends up dangerously close to being a true crime headline. This story follows two people. We never got their names, so we'll call them Jake and Lisa. Now Jake and Lisa were your typical college kids. They'd met through some campus group or a class, and they decided to go out for dinner. Nothing fancy, just a low-key diner date. They vibed, okay. Not terrible, not fireworks either. A couple of polite laughs here and there, but the whole thing felt more like a polite formality than a spark. You know that feeling when you're halfway through dinner and already rehearsing your had a nice time, but let's not see each other again message? Anyway, toward the end of the date, Jake, who probably realized this wasn't heading anywhere romantic, got a sudden idea. You know that moment when you feel like you've got nothing to lose? He looked at Lisa and said, "Wanna do something totally random?" Lisa blinked. Like, what? Jake told her about this hiking trail out in Provo Canyon. Said he'd been there a bunch of times. The stars. Insane. The overlook. Beautiful. The vibe. Kinda peaceful. But, small detail, it was night. And they'd be hiking into the forest. In the dark. On a first date. What could possibly go wrong, right? Surprisingly, Lisa was into it. Compared to awkward small talk over fries, a spontaneous nighttime hike sounded pretty fun. So they hopped in Jake's car and headed toward the trail. The drive up was weirdly quiet. No music. Just tires crunching gravel and the occasional glance between them. The road narrowed, winding through thick clusters of trees that leaned over like they were eavesdropping. Lisa cracked a window and noticed the air smelled off, like wet bark and something metallic underneath. They both ignored it. Jake made a joke about summoning Bigfoot and Lisa laughed, but inside, she was starting to feel that odd mix of nervous and excited. You know when your brain says, "This is probably fine," but your stomach's like, "Girl, what are we doing?" They parked near the trailhead. It was totally empty, no other cars, no campers, nothing. Just them, the stars, and a whole lot of trees. As they got out and started walking, something shifted. At first, they were joking, teasing, and even holding hands like some unexpected chemistry had kicked in. But the deeper they went, the weirder it felt. No birds. No bugs. Just silence. The kind that presses on your chest. Lisa kept waiting for the typical forest sounds, an owl, a snapping twig, anything, but it felt like someone had hit mute on nature. Even their own footsteps sounded wrong, like they were walking across something hollow. She glanced up at the sky, hoping the stars would calm her, but the canopy above them was so thick she couldn't see a single one. Lisa started feeling uneasy, but she didn't say anything. Jake? Same. He could feel this tension creeping in like the air itself was warning them. But this was a first date. Nobody wants to be the one who says, "Hey, I'm scared. Can we turn back?" So they both stayed quiet, pretending everything was fine, even as their steps got faster and their grip on each other's hands tightened. They passed what looked like an old jacket hanging from a tree. Faded, ripped, and half covered in moss. Jake shrugged it off, said maybe a camper left it, but neither of them looked too closely. They didn't want to. That jacket had the kind of look that said it hadn't moved in years. Let me just say, when two people simultaneously feel that kind of dread for no clear reason, you leave. You don't ask why. You don't investigate. You just go. But they didn't. Now picture this. You're in the middle of a dark forest. You're speed walking in silence, trying to pretend everything's chill. Then, out of nowhere you hear rustling. In the brush. Off to the side. At the exact same time, Jake's foot lands on something soft. Not fallen leaves soft. Not moss soft. It was something wrong. He could feel it. Jake froze. His entire body locked up. Like a switch flipped. Lisa turned, expecting to see a rock or branch, but Jake just shook his head, slow, wide-eyed. His hands were shaking. His mouth moved like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Lisa immediately stopped, sensing something was wrong. They didn't say a word. Didn't look down. Didn't ask, "What was that?" They just turned around. And walked. Fast. Like, don't trip, don't ask questions, just go energy. They didn't stop until they reached the car, slammed the doors shut, and finally exhaled. Once the engine was running and the forest was in the rear view, they started nervously laughing. "What do you think that was?" Jake asked. "Maybe an animal," Lisa said. They both tried to shake it off. It became one of those creepy stories you half joke about later. "Remember that one time we went hiking in the dark and something almost ate us? Haha. Funny, right? Until it wasn't." Lisa still thought about that soft thing sometimes. She remembered how the forest had gone still after Jake stepped on it. No wind. No rustling. Like the whole place had been holding its breath. Fast forward a decade. Jake and Lisa got married. Turns out near-death experiences make for strong foundations, I guess. It was just another evening. They were lounging around, barely paying attention to the TV. Some true crime show was playing, one of those dramatic types with creepy music and moody interviews in the background. Neither of them was really watching, until a certain voice came on. The show had cut to an interview segment, some grainy prison footage. It was a conversation with a serial killer on death row. Not just any guy either. A name you'd definitely recognize. One of those infamous ones people make documentaries about, the kind that keeps you up at night. The journalist asked him, "Was there ever a moment when you were nearly caught?" He said, "Actually yes, there was one night in Provo Canyon. I had just finished killing a girl. I was dragging her body off the trail, trying to hide it in the trees, when, out of nowhere, a couple appeared. Just walking, laughing, like it was any normal night. The guy actually stepped on her. I was crouched in the brush, maybe a foot away, still holding her. I could hear their breathing. I could smell them. And they never saw me. Never looked down. They just paused and walked away. But had they caught me, I had to kill them too." For a moment everything stilled. Jake's face drained of color. Lisa sat up straight like her spine was trying to escape her body. Their hands found each other instantly, that same instinct from the forest resurfacing. Even a decade later. At that moment, Jake and Lisa locked eyes. Jake's hand dropped the remote. Lisa's face went pale. It was their date. They hadn't stumbled on just anything in the woods. They had walked directly into the middle of a murder scene. And the killer, the man hiding in the bushes, holding a body, watching silently, was Ted Bundy, one of the most terrifying serial killers in American history. That soft thing Jake stepped on, it wasn't a log. It wasn't moss. It was the victim. And Bundy had been less than a foot away, watching them, deciding what to do. Had either of them looked down, or asked questions, or hesitated for even a second, they never would have made it to that wedding. No life. No marriage. No 10-year anniversary. Just their names on a list. They were almost a line in a documentary. A cold case no one solved. A headline that read "Young couple vanishes on first date hike." Let that sink in. Their survival came down to pure instinct, that feeling in your gut that says get out now. Listen to it. Sometimes life gives you a weird first date story you laugh about. Sometimes, life gives you a first date where you step on a dead body and nearly get murdered by a serial killer hiding 2 feet away. Moral of the story? If your gut says turn back, don't ask questions. Don't try to be polite. Just run. Because somewhere out there, evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes, it smiles. Sometimes, it invites you on a date. And sometimes, it waits in the dark while you laugh, clueless. Maybe stick to coffee shops for first dates, Or maybe next time someone says let's go somewhere special, ask if that somewhere has Wi-Fi, people, and streetlights. Because sometimes safety isn't boring. Sometimes, it's the only reason you make it home. And that is your reminder. Trust your gut. Because sometimes, the scariest thing on a first date isn't the awkward silence. It's what's hiding in the dark. Stay safe, stay spooky, and maybe skip the forest next time.